Hey, what's going on, Freedom Ninjas? It's Jeff King here, and today we're going to talk about education without the state and how that could work. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel so I can keep making these videos. It's said that those who control the past own the present and shape the future. Now, possessing the ability to decide when information gets passed on to the next generation would allow one to change the past in order to control the present and mold the future. Now, education and educating the next generation are far too important to leave in the hands of a centralized monopoly power. Of all the monopolies which should be guarded against, a monopoly on education should be first on the list. So much attention is given to the potential of one airline merging with another and creating a huge airline company, or one telecom giant potentially merging with another, yet no one pays attention to the fact that we're failing our youth by giving politicians, of all people, a monopoly on education. If there was ever a sector of the economy which should be subject to the customer satisfaction profit motive, it's the education of our young. Our youth deserve teachers and administrators and business professionals focused on customer satisfaction instead of bureaucrats following political directives. Almost nothing is as important as the education of our youth. To leave the teaching of history's lessons in the hands of politicians is to ignore the fact that much of history is replete with violence and discord caused by politicians and their never-ending willingness to use guns and murder in their quest for power and control. Do you really want men and women obsessed with power and control directing your child's education? Or do you want men and women who use voluntary free market interaction to earn your business by providing the best educational system and curriculum possible for your children? Politicians are guided by power and they use guns to force their personal desires on the rest of society. Free market entrepreneurs are guided by customer satisfaction and they use voluntary interactions to achieve their personal desires. Governments teach ethics of violence because coercive gun violence is the foundation of government's existence. Free markets teach ethics of persuasive interactions as persuasion is the basis of all free market success. What principles and ethics do you want your child to embrace? Coercive government principles or persuasive free market principles? It's not in government's interest to prescribe a curriculum which teaches the next generation principles of voluntary ethics, principles which, if adopted outright, would lead to society rejecting the very idea of politicians and government in the first place. Libertarians want to end government's involvement in education because we realize that our youth deserve more than being forced into the nearest monopolistic school. Our youth deserve the freedom and creativity of entrepreneurs competing to provide them with the best educational services possible. Freedom in education will lead to entrepreneurs creating a diversity in educational options that would allow parents to find the schools which best suit the children's needs. If your child is rowdy and loves to play, well, there will be a school for your child. And maybe the school will offer 2 hours of recess, and maybe there's another school that offers 3 hours of recess, and you get to pick which school best suits your children's needs. Is your child a baseball or a soccer protege? Well, there may evolve schools designed to cultivate your child's athletic potential, and there may be schools completely focused on baseball and schools completely focused on soccer. There may be a school that's more heavily focused on academics but also heavily focused on baseball, or there may be a school that's more focused on baseball and less focused on academics. In a free world, you're going to get the ability to choose. If your child is inclined to entrepreneurship, there may evolve schools designed to help your child become the next Bill Gates. What if your child has artistic inclinations? Well, there are going to be schools that evolve to help your child become a professional artist. Now, freeing our educational system from political mandates will result in options designed for your child's needs, instead of curriculum designed to win the next political election. Removing political control from education will also free me and you to pick how we want to pursue our professional career. If you want to be a lawyer, have you ever asked yourself, why can't you just start law school at the age of 14 or 15 or 16 if there's a law school that's willing to take you? Or why do you have to go to law school in the first place? Or why do you have to pass the bar in the first place? Why can't you just study law, start a law practice, and allow your customer results to be the proof of your qualifications? Your customer results are proof of your proficiency, not some government certificate. What if you want to be a chiropractor? Well, political mandates dictate that you must sacrifice 10 years of your life in med school before government and politicians allow you to practice chiropractic medicine. In a free world without these political mandates, you could apprentice under your local chiropractor for a year or two. And when the local chiropractor thinks you're ready to go on your own, he will certify your chiropractic abilities. And in your community, and in that chiropractor's community, his reputation will be enough to gain you customers. And if you were to try to go outside your local community, before you have established a name for yourself, then his certification may not carry much weight, and you may need to go to a traditional chiropractic school. And in a free world, traditional chiropractic schools will of course still exist, but there is no reason to think that it would take 10 years to become proficient in chiropractic medicine. Some schools' curriculum may be 2 years long, or 3, or 4, or 5. The thing is, you don't know because the free market hasn't been allowed allowed to develop. And different schools will lead to graduates commanding different prices on the market as different schools will teach to a higher degree or a lower degree. Freedom in education will return control back to you to decide how you want to pursue a professional career. And freedom in education will return control back to parents. Control to shop for schools which cater to their child's abilities. Freedom in education will allow those same children to pick a career path without having to navigate rules and restrictions imposed on them by politicians. The great paradox in our current educational system is that politicians believe their educational mandates promote fairness. However, there is nothing fair about forcing our youth into a one-size-fits-all monopolistic system, a system which promotes inequality, as the students which naturally do well in the government system will outperform other students who would naturally do well in other systems. Students who aren't inclined to learn in the sit down for 7 hours a day and listen to a lecturer method have no choice but to underperform because they are forced into a monopolistic government system which strips society of the freedom to meet those children's needs. Now let's assume there are 5 different learning systems which can be used to teach children. In reality, there's many more. Government system is just one. And students which may do well in the other 4 are forced to underperform in the government system, and they are labeled as dumb or lazy or ADHD. Now what's really happening is we are putting the education of our youth in governmental cages and then getting mad at them when they don't learn or like being in cages. What if government did to automobile production what it does to education? If government gave Ford a monopoly on vehicle production and forced all of us to drive Fords, I'm pretty sure society would be pissed off. We like free market options, and we like the ability to compare a Ford to a Honda to a Chevy or a Toyota or a Nissan. So why do we allow government to force our children into an educational system which strips entrepreneurs of the ability to provide our youth and their parents with the freedom to choose an educational model which suits the student's personality? Is car production more important than education, and therefore we demand multiple options when buying a car, but our children's education doesn't matter, so a monopoly is good enough? If you truly care about the education of our youth, if you truly care, then you would want to set the market free to meet the needs and individuality of our next generation. Not force them into uniform government systems which deny them the ability to be taught according to their needs. Our youth deserve better than a politically dictated educational monopoly, and our future depends on it. And that's the thing with King.